as we prepare for the enactment of the Corporate Transparency Act, also known as CTA. There are many questions about the process and whether your company is required to report beneficial ownership information to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, also referred to as FinCEN. In our last episode, we detailed specific information required to be reported to FinCEN by a company and individual to report regarding beneficial ownership information. In place of the 4 pieces of personal information required by FinCEN, a FinCEN Identifier will satisfy the identification requirement. In the final episode of our 6-part series, we provide you with the purpose of a FinCEN Identifier and how to use it. What is a FinCEN Identifier? A FinCEN Identifier is a unique identifying number that FinCEN will issue to an individual or reporting company upon request after the individual or reporting company provides certain information to FinCEN. Why would a company or individual consider applying for a FinCEN Identifier? According to FinCEN, once a beneficial owner or company applicant has obtained a FinCEN Identifier, reporting companies may report it in place of the otherwise required 4 pieces of personal information about the individual in the BOI reports. How do individuals apply for a FinCEN Identifier? Individuals may electronically apply for FinCEN Identifiers. As previously pointed out, when completing the application, an individual must provide their name, date of birth, address, unique identifying number, and issuing jurisdiction from an acceptable identification document, along with an image of the identification document. These are the same 4 pieces of personal information and image reporting companies must submit about beneficial owners and company applicants in the BOI reports. After an individual applies, the individual will immediately receive a FinCEN Identifier unique to that individual. How do reporting companies apply for a FinCEN Identifier? Your company may request a FinCEN Identifier when it submits a BOI report by checking the box on the reporting form. You may apply for a FinCEN Identifier beginning January 1, 2024 at fincen.gov/BOI. What should you do if your information changes after receiving the FinCEN Identifier? When the information of an individual or reporting company reported to FinCEN to obtain a FinCEN Identifier changes, or when the individual or reporting company discovers that reported information is inaccurate, must correct it. No later than 30 days after the date the individual becomes aware of the inaccuracy or had reason to know of it. In the coming days and weeks, United Corporate Services and CLAS Information Services will continue to provide updates on the CTA as we learn more about the requirements. Please keep in mind, this material has been prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied upon for tax, legal, or accounting advice. United Corporate Services and CLAS Information Services recommend that you consult the appropriate advisor before engaging in any future transactions. United Corporate Services and CLAS Information Services. Excellent service in extraordinary times.